They warned us about diapers, tantrums, teenagers, but parenting adult children, that part often came with silence. You still love them deeply. We still worry, still hope, still pray, but your role changes, and nobody hands you a roadmap for that.
You found the Midlife Revolution Unleashed, the space to embrace your wisdom, reignite your passions, and move boldly into what's next. I am Coach Wayne, the VIP coach.
And I'm Coach Stacy M. Lewis. We're here with insights, stories, and strategies to fuel your midlife journey. So take a breath, lean in. Your revolution starts now.
We're on the move.
I'm telling you, spring has sprung, and we are here for another live episode of Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I am your co-host, Stacy M. Lewis, a midlife woman's coach, a nonprofit executive, and a lover of God and his people. And I'm once again excited to be here with my co-host, Coach Wayne.
Thank you, Stacy M. Lewis, Coach Extraordinaire. I'm Coach Wayne, the VIP coach. I coach men of color through midlife so that their second half can be their best half. I said this to somebody in coaching the other day. A gentleman was in his late 60s. I said, second half. He said, second half? I ain't living to 120. So this is all in the mind, Stacy.
It is all in the mind, right? Because 60 is definitely still, you're in the second half, but it doesn't mean you're starting the second half, right?
It's funny. I got to check myself. Maybe call it the fourth quarter. Huh? So Stacy, today we're going to talk about an era of parenting that's often not spoken about and really stressed because it's parenting adult children. We're here not talking about just the caregiving, but we're talking about the impact in terms of emotional, physical. Last time, a couple of months or weeks ago, we talked about the financial aspects of it. So today we're not going to focus on that. We're going to be talking about some of the other aspects of parenting adult children.
Yeah, it is such an interesting season, and talk about lived experience, right? I don't know about you, Wayne. Well, I do know about you, Wayne, and you too are in this lived experience. We are living the experience that we are talking about. And so love to just amplify the joys and the challenges in this season of midlife. So hey, Coach Janelle, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is always good to see you.
So, Chase, we as parents, we learned a lot about the beginning part of parenting, about raising babies, infants, the toddlers, but nobody really helped us out for the most part with what happens, even teenage, that part of parenting, which is for most a struggle. We get through it and we probably get a little coaching or not. But what we typically don't touch at all is parenting our adult children. And to be sure, tonight we want to talk about how you do this relatively successfully by firstly recognizing that it's a different stage of life for them and obviously you. And so you got to change your role.
Yeah, and recognize that it's changed for both of you, right? And we're just going to say it once again, right? No one prepared us for this. I don't know about you, Coach Wayne, but when mine was born and, learning to ride his bike and having challenges in middle school, all of that, there was so much support, relatability, and normalization. And now, to your point, no one's talking about it, but it's very normal. The challenges that we're going through are very normal. And so where we may not have all of the answers, but what you do have here with Midlife Revolution Unleashed is community, right? You have a community of midlifers that can relate to every aspect of the journey. And it feels surprisingly hard, in part because our influence has changed, right? They're still the same people, our offspring. We're still the same people, but the influence has changed. And how do we balance that dynamic, right? What is my new role now? And I would imagine that maybe it evolves as you're parenting adult children in their 20s versus their 30s versus their 40s. You know, Wayne?
Yeah, absolutely. I know what you're talking about. I had to challenge myself with checking myself. They say before you wreck yourself. As a parent, we lay the rules down, even lay the clothes down at a certain point. And then they grow up and grow out, or some still reside at home, depending on the culture and what's happening. And you have to know when to be quiet, when to insert yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that you love any less, but you love oftentimes from afar or certainly differently when they are growing up and have becomes adults. And so it's learning how to temper some of your temptations to get involved and to resolve things for them as you did 10 years earlier.
Yeah, let me tell you a little story here. Because I think one of the questions, right, in this opening thinking is, how do I support without overstepping? So, my son, we're talking about going to a family event this weekend, and he's saying, "Oh, maybe I'll take the train, maybe I'll drive." And I'm like angsting. I caught myself today. I'm saying, no, I think he should take the train because, he's going to get stuck in DC traffic and then he's going to be late. But it doesn't really matter if he's late. But I don't know, it just sounds like a lot of driving. And I am going through the scenarios in my head. And I said out loud to myself today, he is grown. He's
Absolutely.
grown. He I don't have to jump in. I don't have to figure it out. If he's coming, he'll figure out how he's going to get there.
Absolutely. He gets to decide. And, you know, Audrey said to me once, because we have two younger ones, meaning younger as in 24, 25. Those are the
Mhm.
babies now in the blended family. And so we're kind of checking on Talia, one of her babies, who lives in Jersey. Now, we're out here in Florida. And so Talia was traveling, and Audrey wanted to figure out if I wanted to say to her, I wonder if she could manage to do it on her own, meaning, do we need to put some cash up for her and all this? She had planned all this stuff, and there's rent to pay and all. Her mother said, don't ask, won't know. So she doesn't ask the questions, because once you ask, then they say, oh yeah, mommy, I need. And so we figured out, look, she's independent. She's figuring this out on her own. She has a lease. And that's something that was not something that we were accustomed to not too long ago, because she was the last to fly the coop. And so Talia lived with
Right.
us until more recently than the others. So,
Mhm.
we would check in. How are you doing? What do you need? Da, da, da. But yes, to your point, they're grown and we have to step back, still love them, but apply the love a little bit differently. That's one of the things that happens in most homes as the kids get older.
Yeah, it's so personal, it's so emotional. I don't know about for dads, but I think for moms, at least this mom, aspects of it, aspects of the shift, the changing role can be emotional. And I'm elated that we're talking about it again, normalizing it and doing so in a way that doesn't come with shame, right? There's no shame. Some of us are still parenting our, 29-year-old like they're 19. There's no shame, but it is indeed an opportunity to make a shift, right, Coach Wayne? To make a shift that you can still be their parent, but you are no longer their manager.
Yeah. And I will admit that my adult children gave me a lesson in how to parent them
Mm,
because I was coming up with the rules, which were indelible to me, but they were whose rules? My rules.
yours.
And
Hmm.
again, like I said, back in the day, you lay out the clothes and you did the shopping even and said, well, you're going to wear this matches that. That's what you're going to wear. But now, even if you don't like the hemline, even if you're not too happy with the music that's banging in the house, you still have to be respectful and allow people, your grown children, their own people, to get their space and to move at their own discretion. That balance is not something that oftentimes we grow into. Oftentimes we learn by trial and error, fire. And it was my kids. My kids kind of withheld some of the connection that I longed for,
Mm.
and I was trying to figure it out. And that's because I had my hands too involved. I was getting too controlling.
Yeah, it is learning how to offer the wisdom, the thoughts, the prayers, all of that good richness that we have, but in ways that keep us in our own lane,
Yeah.
right? Not in ways, to your point, of doing it differently, expressing the love differently, not in ways that then jump into their lane as they are exploring their adulthood, but in ways that allow us to stay in our lane, but still apply some
Yeah.
of the gifts, that wisdom, that saging that you call it, Coach Wayne, that we have.
Yeah. The question I would throw out to folks that are listening is for you, as you are raising your adult children, what has been the hardest aspect of parenting for you?
Mm, mm.
And once you have discovered what that is, how do you negotiate it? How do you negotiate it? How do you work through it? How do you work around it? How do you resolve it?
Yeah. Coach Wayne, one of the things I keep thinking about is in this season, you have to relinquish control. There's a level of control that we have as our children are younger, as
Mhm.
we are really managing their life. There's a level of control that we have. And now we have to relinquish. You got to set it free. You got to turn it over, right? Our parents had to do the same thing. And I know my mama placed me in the Lord's hands. I know that she was a praying woman. She was like, oh, Lord, help that child. So we have to relinquish the control that we have as parents of younger children. As they are adults, that control is then what causes them to retract. It causes them to disconnect or to feel even disrespected
Mhm.
or dishonored in their own agency as adults. Good
Mhm.
evening, Coach Curtis. Good to see you.
Mhm. Stace, this brings up the C word, culture. And yeah, I just made up that word, Stacy.
I never know what Coach Wayne is going to say. I'm always prayerful.
It's new. So, Stacy, culture, we talk about culture. In our culture, Black folks, and it depends on what aspect of the city or the town or the country you're raised in or the part of the world, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And let me put myself on a limb here and say this. I know a lot of Haitian families, and part of the culture that I have experienced watching them and have been told is their adult children oftentimes will stay home, especially the girls, until they're ready to be married or
Mm.
independent enough
Mm-hmm.
to have their own home and move out. They're not, and they could be 25, 26, 27, 28. There's no rush to get them out. On the other hand, I think I told you a couple of weeks ago that Audrey had this white patient who at 18, all his kids had to leave the house. Ready or not, here we go. See the door.
Right.
You know, it's a very different culture. And so
Right.
how do
Right.
how do you play into that when, listen, man, if you're in my house, you're playing by my rules. I know it sounds forceful, but I'm kind of saying if I'm paying the rent and putting the food on the table in my space and you're there, I'm making, for the most part, the rules. Again, what do you say to that, Coach Stacy?
I say that that's worth examining, right? Because I think the rules need to change because the rules, right? You didn't put up, or when your children were young, you put up gates, right? So that they didn't go places, so that they didn't get into situations that could potentially harm them. As adults, the rules that we have as parents do need to change. They need to evolve. I'm not saying, Coach Wayne, that you can't have rules, but I am saying that they cannot be the same rules, even when you think about a 20-year-old under your roof and a 35-year-old under your roof. The rules cannot be the same, Coach Wayne. They cannot.
Oh, well, I mean, you can come in whatever time you want to come in, and you're a grown person. But I still figure that there's some things I gotta control and maintain in my house.
Yes.
House rules they call it, Stacy.
And I'm
And
all for house rules, but I think as you raise, and good evening, Delane, it's always wonderful to have you in the listening lounge of Midlife Revolution Unleashed. One of the realities, I think, when we talk about culture and the layers in Black and Brown families, one of the challenges is often that as our children become adults, we have this sense of the level of danger or unfairness or discrepancy or prejudice that the world has, that the society has, as they look at our young Black and brown adults. It doesn't mean everyone looks at them with the same critical eye or everyone is practicing a level of microaggressions. But as parents, we know that we carry these fears almost about what the world, how society is going to treat them. And so sometime that I think that also is part of our culture and it can cause us to, whether it be hover or over parent, those heightened concerns kind of cause us to parent even adults differently. What do you say to that, Coach Wayne?
no, I'm hearing you loud and clear, and that's dropping really heavy on my heart because I know I have two grown men, Black boys, who are men. Audrey has Tyree, served in the military, but still within 30 years old. And we know that young Black men are more than likely, I think 3 times more likely than their white counterparts to get stopped for like even a traffic ticket and wind up getting locked up, right? I'm not sure of the stats, but it's close to
Mhm.
that. How do you, so when your son goes out at night and he's an adult and he's under your care, I know we're talking to young men and we don't want to insert ourselves and act like they can't make decisions for themselves. But I'm still up at night and I still want to have an input. I would still want to say based on how I see them rolling. If they were to dress a certain way, Stacy, and I know a lot of Black families, Black mothers, single mothers, perhaps can identify real quickly with this one, that we still want a handle on how we kind of guide them. And so, I know it's not house rules, but it's still part of a parenting where we just can't let go because we understand what's out there waiting for them.
Right. You feel like in some ways the world can be a dangerous place,
Yeah.
right? And when they're little, we know that the world can be a dangerous place, but we have more control,
Yeah.
right? We're like, no, you cannot go to the park without me. No, you cannot do this without an adult being present, right? Because we know that the world is a dangerous place.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you release, and that for me is an ongoing practice. And my son is 33, right? But it is releasing him, believing that God has him covered and releasing him, right? Because I don't want him to feel like such a level of hovering that he embraces fear, that he embraces a lack of belief that he's going to be all right. Right. Because that's also the message that we want them to feel, to sense like, I believe in you. You're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Right. You have everything you need. So those are the messages that we want them to receive. And sometimes it is challenging. And I think that that's just, one of those things that we have to deal with as Black and brown people.
See, so this brings me to the thought around support versus control.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a shift that's delicate. I think as parents of adult children, we still can indirectly, manipulate is a tough word and a hard word, but we can still influence these children,
Mm-hmm.
these grown adults, through our support rather than our control.
Well
And
said.
again, I backed up the manipulation stuff because I didn't want it to seem like this was a trick play. But there are ways to show our support fully, like listen intently, but don't insert ourselves unless ask for our impression. Sometimes we just can't hold back. We can't help ourselves. We think it's okay to insert ourselves because we're grown or older. And it's telling when we do that. It actually pushes our children away from being candid, open, and honest,
Right. Right.
because we got to say, we have to have the last word.
Right. Right. Because we do have to honor them as adults, right? We feel their pain differently, right? As they're adults, we still feel their pain because they're our offspring. We still want to listen to them, right? When they were little, they were like, listen to me, right? We
Yeah.
have to listen to them. And I want to bring up one of Curtis's questions, and it's about, the rules. We were talking about the rules of the house earlier, and do those rules also apply to our spouse or significant other? I dare say absolutely. If you are in the environment, right, where there are two of you parenting from the same home, that you've got to come together on those rules, right? You've got to come together on what support versus control looks like. You've got to come together to really make sure that there's some level of agreement about how you're going to honor. Coach Wayne, you said earlier that you wanted to do something, and Audrey, your bride, said don't. Right? So you came together because she was like, "No, if you start asking, do you need money? Can I help you in some way?" Right? One is you open the door for the child to say, "Yes, I need money." Who doesn't need money? I money. You call me and you say, Stacy, do you need some money? Yes, yes, I do, sir. Yes, I do. But that it's still co-parenting, right? Blended family. You mentioned blended family. It is still co-parenting, and you are now co-parenting adult offspring. I try to get myself out of the habit of calling them children, right?
Yeah,
Because they're not children. They are our children. They are babies. That's what makes it so challenging, Coach Wayne, right? It's still my
absolutely.
baby. It's still my heart. I mean, the best thing I've ever done in my life is my son. And I'm still like, oh, that's my little baby, but he's not a baby,
Ah,
right? He's a
yes,
grown man. I'm like, he's
absolutely,
a grown man, right? He's still one of my
absolutely,
favorite people. And sometimes I'm like, bro, you're making a mistake. But I have
absolutely,
to let him make his own mistakes. Sorry,
absolutely.
I went off topic. But for
It's all
me,
good. No, I
that
love it. I
that
love it. I
piece
love it.
about the co-parenting, I think is critical.
I love it. It's real. And Stace, our good brother Curtis mentioned something that you spoke on about parenting. And as we still are on the subject of support versus control,
Yeah.
it's important that we recognize, no matter what the parenting situation is, that the parents have to support each other in the way the decisions they're taken, in the way that we show up as parents for the house. And that even involves, so Stacy, parenting across the way when the family is separated or divorced or operating in terms of two households.
Mm-hmm.
It is important and healthier, not always possible, to collude as parents to decide on some of the values and expectations of these people that we call our older adult offspring. Guess what?
Mm-hmm.
We still love them. So we're
Yes,
not going to see them
absolutely.
going down, right? We're not going to see them going down into a fence and just stand by and leave it alone because now they're grown. This is why midlife is important, because what it tells us by way of us getting there is that we have a little bit more lived experience and hopefully some knowledge and wisdom that we can share and apply.
Absolutely, Coach Wayne. You just talked about, not letting them crash into the fence. We, in this support versus control, also have to take ownership of our own mindset. We have all made some bad choices, but those bad choices were not a crisis, right? They were bad choices. They probably had a little bit of a bad outcome. Most of the choices that are taking place within your young adult offspring, they're going to make some bad choices. But let's remind ourselves, right? Like, okay, is this choice going to end up in a crisis, or is it going to be really a learning opportunity for them to learn? Like my son was visiting recently and he told me about something he did, and in my head I was like, what in the world were you thinking? Yet the words that came out of my mouth were, how would you handle that differently next time? Right?
Mhm.
Because now that he did what he did, now he's like, oh yeah, no, that was not my best move. Now
Mhm.
he's recognizing that he now has to deal with those ramifications, those consequences. And
Mhm.
so let's remind ourselves that every bad choice is not a crisis. And therefore, every moment does not need our opinion.
And if you're speaking to yourself in your head at this moment, here's a question you ought to pose for yourself. What does healthy support look like for
Mm.
your adult children?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's a great question. And is that really the kind of support that you would have wanted? Right? Let's cross check some of that response to make sure, like, yeah, it seems healthy right now, but it's like, just think about it. Give it another minute.
Yeah. Stacey, I want to talk a little bit about boundaries.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say that Coach Curtis, I was holding on his question. I didn't want him to think I overlooked it, but yes, we should definitely be talking about enforcing boundaries and values. Let's talk about that, Coach Wayne.
Hey, my good man, my beloved brother-in-law, Lucien Jones. Dr. Jones just popped in. Hey, thanks for
Well,
popping
hello,
in.
Dr. Jones. Thank you for
From
joining
from
us.
Jamaica.
Ah,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing the sunshine.
Talk about wonderful parenting. That's a model right there. He and my
Mm,
sister, both of them. So here's the thing. We talk about boundaries. Boundaries, a lot of times we as parents in setting boundaries feel a sense of guilt and
mm.
feel like we have to apologize when we create boundaries. And when we establish these, then we observe them. There's no need to feel that way. Boundaries doesn't mean we no longer love you if you're listening in as one of our children. Boundaries is really important because without that, oftentimes you can wind up with depletion of self. You can wind up with resentment. You can wind up with enabling and over functioning. It's about discipline and management, and in particular, self management and containment.
Absolutely. I mean, the boundaries piece is huge, and it is linked to your values. When we talked about parenting adult children and the financial aspect, right? We really talked about the boundaries, like not depleting your future to feed their present. And often, even outside of money, it becomes that, right? Are you depleting yourself in a way that is not healthy for you in order to do something or be someone that you think your adult children need, to go above and beyond? Is that costing you? Are you breaking your own boundaries in order to be what you think a parent needs to be of an adult child? We are talking about adult grown children.
Yeah, boundaries are not punishment. They are ways to make love sustainable.
Yeah.
All right.
Well said, and we're talking about the boundaries around your time, around your emotional labor, around your living arrangements when the time comes, around crisis cycles. I do have some friends that, have an offspring that tends to get caught up in, like, everything is a crisis,
Hmm.
right? And instead of recognizing that everything is a crisis and looking to temper, right,
Mhm.
or bring it down a level or two,
Mhm.
the sweep is into the crisis cycle.
Mhm.
And so building boundaries even around crisis cycle and your communication is critical.
Yeah. Stacey talked about your mother being a prayer ward and praying for you, which is so important, right? And this is something that I wanted to toss in. And when our children become adults, it's still important for us to to model appropriate
Yeah.
behavior and
Mhm.
model appropriate language and just appropriate living. And I say appropriate based on our values and belief system, our
Mhm.
guidelines.
Mhm.
And I know you refer to the the good old word proper living in terms of the biblical text, but or not, but and it's important no matter how old they get that we recognize that they're still watching us. And so
Yeah.
modeling is important.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. Really modeling how even you as a parent and as an adult are growing and evolving as your relationship or as your young adult children age, right? Their aging means that you're aging and saging, as Coach
Yes.
Wayne would say. And you get to model that and to authentically communicate, right? Where your challenges are. Like, I love you. I'm willing to help you with this, but I can't help you with that. Or I love you and I realize I'm having a hard time not saying what's on my mind, right? And remembering that you are an adult and not
Yeah.
the child that I worked so hard to raise. Sometimes that authenticity is important as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And boundaries, we can say, I'm willing to help you with that, but not with this. Or I love you and I need us to handle this differently. Those are important
Mm-hmm.
things to say. And Stacey, we're doing this also because it's important to recognize that we still have to take care of self. Don't
Yeah.
lose yourself, parents, in this season, right? Don't lose yourself. Always recognize that, again, if you fly, they tell you if the pressure goes down in the cabin, you got to put your resuscitation mask
Mm-hmm.
on self first before you can
Mm-hmm.
rescue anybody else. So always make sure that you recognize that your life still matters.
Absolutely. I think, Wayne, our tagline is celebrating the richness of midlife. And richness gets to be lived out, not just read, right? Not just the word read, but we get to live out the richness, right? We have such grace in being here. Both of us know folks that, have passed on way too young, right? But here we are and we get to celebrate the richness. And so this don't lose yourself in this season is so important. Reach out for support, right? We are Midlife Revolution Unleashed. Really, we're all walking through this together. So, how can we support one another, right? Coach Wayne is there, Coach Stacy is here. We're really wanting to make sure you know that it's okay if this area is a little bit of a struggle for you. But what we don't want you to do is lose track of who you are, the gift
Mm-hmm.
you are to the world, the value that you still have to bring to the world. And you don't want that all consumed by parenting your young adult children.
Right. You don't want to disappear while you continue to love and support.
Ooh,
So,
well
okay,
said.
Stacey, how about some coaching questions for our audience today?
Mm-hmm.
Um, one is what feels hardest for me about parenting in this season and
Yeah.
address it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are good. We have to put these questions in the show notes. What does healthy support look like right now?
Yeah.
Right? Is it talking to that friend that has nothing but negativity? Right? What does healthy support look like right now?
What part of my own life have I put on hold while worrying about my adult child?
Mm, mm.
And
Where do I need a loving boundary? No shame, no guilt, a loving boundary.
and to improve on your relationship with your adult children, with all of them actually, but the adults in particular, ask permission before giving advice.
Mm.
Slow down before responding. Really listen. Two ears, one mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak.
Yeah, I would say, what does it look like now to love deeply without losing myself? What does it look like now to love my adult children deeply without
Yeah.
losing myself?
And when we talk about adult children, if they're married or they have spouses or significant other, we got to include those people. And as we do, we want to make sure we create boundaries before resentment develops.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because you got a ways to go. You got a good rest of the life to live, right? They've got a ways to go, and you want to have that relationship between you and your adult children be one that is ever blossoming.
Yeah.
It's not too late for change.
Not at all. Stacy, today, I just want to remind folks that if you have been tuning in us to Midlife Revolution on your favorite podcast handle, and you, for some reason, just forgot to hit the subscription button, do so now. It really helps the algorithm to get us to send out our vibes to more people, to do more good and have more impact and influence. And today's show is being brought to you by VIPTransformativeLiving.com.
Yay. I love it. Coach Wayne, how can the people reach you, sir?
Hey, they can hit my website, VIPTransformativeLiving.com. And I have lots of handles there, Stacy. Just reach out to me. And I'm happy, by the way, to offer my free self-assessment to kind of square you off, see where you are landing right now as a human being functioning. And Stacy, how can they reach you for some of that good, solid coaching and support?
Well, I think I love the fact that you added the word support, because I'm definitely just here to really elevate the lives of midlife women. And so I can be reached. If you're viewing this on social media, you probably have my handle. And if not, you can reach out to me at thestacymlewis.com. It is always my joy to be cheering my people on.
Absolutely. And before we go, Stacy, Ecclesiastic 3:1 says that there is a season for everything. So
that's right.
Pick your season. It stands for reason. Yeah.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah. So Stacy, we'll do this again next week, same time, same place. And we want to thank you for tuning in. This has been another episode of our Midlife Revolution Unleashed, and I'll see you at the top.
Thank you, Delane, for the birthday wishes. Thanks for tuning in to Midlife Revolution Unleashed. We're grateful you're part of this journey.
If you love this episode, share it, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss another episode.
I'm Coach Stacy, and I'm cheering you on.
And I'm Coach Wayne, and I'll see you at the top.